The first time he saw her, she was wrestling a drunken ranch hand to the dirt outside the Broken Spur Saloon, her hat low over her brow, that jagged scar catching the sunset like a blade. She didn't say a word. Just dusted herself off, took one last swig from a dented flask, and walked past him like he was a ghost in boots. And that was the moment Cole McRae, honest cowboy, born of grit and saddle leather, knew his life was never gonna be the same. People around town called her Red. No one knew her real name, and few cared to ask. A drifter, they said. Scarred from a fire, a fight, or maybe just life itself. She never stayed long anywhere, drifting from one broken fence post job to the next, never making eye contact long enough for a connection. Cole had seen a lot in his 35 years under the wide Montana sky, but nothing rattled him like the way she held silence. Like it was a weapon. Like it was the only thing keeping the world from tearing her apart. Cole ran cattle for the Three Rivers Ranch, a dusty stretch of golden land flanked by blue mountains and rusted fences, the kind of place where men worked themselves into the dirt and asked for no more than a quiet death and a clear sky to die under. He wasn't rich, but he was proud. Respected. Trusted. And something in Red's defiance, in that scar running down her left cheek like a forgotten war story, called to him like thunder before rain. He started small, offering her work when her horse limped into town, letting her use the old bunkhouse on the edge of his land. She didn't say yes right away. She didn't say anything. But the next morning, there she was, hauling hay bales like they owed her money, face set like stone, hands blistered but relentless. He watched her from the porch, sipping coffee that had gone cold from neglect, feeling something shift in his chest like a storm building far away. Weeks passed. Then months. And slowly, like spring creeping into winter's bones, she softened, just enough. She still kept to herself, still disappeared at dusk to some quiet place in the hills where no one followed. But she began to speak. Little things. Thanks. Pass the salt. Once, she laughed. It wasn't pretty. It was hoarse and broken, like an old gate swinging open for the first time in years. But it was enough to break Cole clean in half. He didn't ask about the scar. He didn't ask about the past. He just showed up every day like the sunrise, steady and unflinching, and treated her like she wasn't broken. Like she wasn't a ghost in a woman's skin. He saw the strength in her arms, the wisdom in her silence, the courage it took just to stay. And for the first time in years, she started to believe maybe she wasn't just surviving, maybe she could live. But happiness, in their part of the world, always came with a price. It was a late October morning when the trouble started. A black sedan rolled into town, city plates flashing like an insult in the dust. The man who stepped out was slick, too slick for these parts. Clean boots, silver cufflinks, and a mouth full of lies. He asked for Ms. Adeline Morrow. No one knew her. Until he showed a picture, Red, younger, without the scar. Cole saw it. Red saw it too. Her face turned to stone, and without a word, she rode out into the hills, faster than he'd ever seen her move. He didn't chase her. Not at first. He waited until dusk, then found her by the river, throwing rocks like they were grenades. "I'm sorry," she whispered before he could speak. "For what?" "For not telling you. For letting you think I was someone I'm not." And then the story spilled like water from a cracked dam. Adeline Morrow, the only daughter of land baron Thomas Morrow, who once owned half the state. Raised in mansions, taught to ride horses before she could walk, groomed to take over an empire she never wanted. She'd run away at 17 after a fire claimed her mother's life and left Adeline with a scar and a soul full of guilt. The press called her missing. Her father called her a disgrace. She'd lived on the road ever since, hiding behind hard work, whiskey, and a name that no longer fit. The man in the sedan? A lawyer. Her father was dead. The will named her sole heir to the largest ranch portfolio west of the Mississippi. I didn't want it, she said, eyes burning. I didn't want any of it. I just wanted to disappear. Cole looked at her then, not as the girl with a scar, or the runaway daughter of some dynasty, but as the woman he'd come to love. The woman who'd bled on his land, who'd fought her way back to life with grit and sweat and silence. You don't have to disappear, he said gently. You already became someone worth finding. But that didn't mean the fight was over. The inheritance came with enemies, old partners and vultures who smelled blood. They called her unfit, unstable. A drifter with no right to the throne. One even tried to buy her off. Another tried to threaten her. Cole stood by her through all of it, never flinching, never letting her fall back into the shadows. They fought in court. They fought on the land. They fought with each other, too, nights when the pressure cracked her resolve and she screamed that she should have stayed gone. That she didn't know how to be loved. That she didn't deserve to be. You don't have to deserve love, he told her once. You just have to be brave enough to accept it. In the end, she won. Not because she had the money or the name, but because she stood tall. Because she stopped hiding. Because she looked her past in the face and refused to run. And when the dust settled, when the papers were signed and the wolves retreated back into their dens, she stood beside Cole on the porch of a house they'd built together, not from timber or stone, but from forgiveness and fire and all the things they'd survived. She still wore the scar. She never covered it. It was part of her story now, not the whole thing. The town never looked at her the same again. Some still whispered. But most saw her for who she really was, a warrior, a survivor, a woman who'd lost everything and still found a way to love again. And in Cole, she found her anchor. Her home. Her quiet after the storm. And the lesson? That you are not what's been done to you. You are what you choose to become afterward. That love, real love, doesn't care where you came from, what you've lost, or what scars you wear. It cares that you stay, that you fight, and that you believe, even when it hurts. Because sometimes, even the drifters, the broken ones, the scarred and silent, they own more than land. They own the strength to start again. And that's the kind of legacy no one can take away.